me the cereal kids are crazy for. Cthulhu's. Start your morning madness with a bowl of morning happiness.
Cthulhu sale is ongoing now. You will take part. Save up to 33% off gem bundles. You will take part.
Crazy crispity. Crazy crunchity. Crazy
Select chests up to 50% off. You will take part. Boosters, avatars, wards, and more up to 50% off. You will take part. Party up with up to 3 times favor. Worshippers and XP. You will take part. This is your duty.
Crazy Cthulhu-y. Cthulhu. Surgeon General's warning, Cthulhu's are not of this world and should not be ingested by children or adults over the age of 80. Gems are not included as a prize because Cthulhu's are not real. Reality is meaningless, time is a construct. Abandon all hope when you ingest Cthulhu's. Use as directed, part of balanced breakfast. For the crispity, crunchity, crazy crunch, get cuckoo with Cthulhu.
You will take part.
Of a balanced breakfast.
Can we take a commercial break?
Hey there, SMITE fans, Agro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Hello, SMITE fans, and welcome to Day 5 of Week 8 of the SPL here on a Monday afternoon. Not something that you get to see every day, but we do have a very important match that is taking place today. The Camelot Kings versus the Oni Warriors, going for a very big, important match for them. But before we get into it, a shout out to our sponsor, Alienware, the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL. You can get the Aurora Ryzen 10 desktop or the 25-inch 240Hz gaming monitor, all available at smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW for all kinds of discounts and coupons. And make sure to follow them on their social media at Alienware on Twitter and Instagram, or on their website at alienwarearena.com. J. Mac Tucker and Agro joining me for this set, and it's going to be a big one for us, Agro.
It is. I mean, this is a big match for the Camelot Kings. They have to find a win here today if they want to get that first place. Remember, they are competing with the Olympus Bolts for that first place seed going into the Phase 2 playoffs, and that matters a lot when it comes down to it because the top 2, of course, get the bye, but the top 1 team, they get the opportunity to pick which quarterfinal they want to play again. So you can potentially stack your deck and try and make it an easier path towards those finals. But top 2, not necessarily guaranteed for the Kings either, J-Mac.
And if you've missed any of the action this week or wondering, hey, why are we here on a Monday, let's take a look at the schedule that you may have missed so far for this week. One of the reasons that we're seeing this match is there was a little bit of a delay because of unforeseen circumstances. We had to reschedule our Saturday match, which is when this was supposed to be played, here towards today. But if you've missed any of this action, you're going to want to go back and watch that Jade Dragon match. You're going to want to watch the Olympus Bolts matchup. I would even say if you want something really fun, go back and watch yesterday's Dragons and Titans match. You'll definitely get a nice little treat with that one.
Yeah, a little bit of a different pace, I would say, than the rest of the SPL games. But overall, definitely a fun week of the final week of the regular season here for Phase 2.
And let's take a look at the standings to see why this match is so important for the Camelot Kings. They've got their final match here to play, and right above them is the Olympus Bolts at 11-3, sitting first seed, and potentially tied with them depending how this set goes, the Atlantis Leviathans at 10-4. So let's talk a little bit about how important this match is, though, Agro.
Exactly. So it's pretty simple. With the Camelot Kings, if they win, they take first seed because they have the head-to-head victory over the Bolts. So that's all they have to do is win, simply. If they lose 2-0, then the Leviathans will be second seed, and the Kings will drop down to third, which would mean that they would have to play in the quarterfinals. If they lose 2-1, that would tie them with the Leviathans, and we would play a best-of-1 tiebreaker match between the Kings and the Leviathans, I believe, today. So there's quite a bit on the line here. 2-1 victory, Kings are chilling. They get first place. But if they lose, it matters quite a bit between losing 2-0 or 2-1.
Yeah, that's the big thing for it, is the Kings just need to win today. Doesn't need to be 2-0, it's a 2-1, doesn't matter. Win, first seed guaranteed. It's the loss where it kind of comes to be a little bit more interesting for it. So the Warriors they're locked in for their seed here. Warriors are not going anywhere. They're staying at the 6th seed for this one, but they've got a chance to play Ruiner for it. Kind of like we talked with the Scarabs a lot for some of their matchups. They have a chance to kind of spoil things for teams. Now the Warriors have a chance to potentially shift around the standings here for the Kings.
And look, they could really use a confidence boost going into the Phase 2 playoffs. I mean, what better way to start to feel like you're going to start to play your best Smite going into the playoffs than to beat the Camelot Kings, who are vying for first seed going into it. So I think this is a pretty important game for the Warriors as well. It's not like a game that they can just roll over and say, who cares, whatever. It's not a big deal. If they were to get a victory here today, I think it would give them a lot of momentum.
This is no easy team to beat, however. The Camelot Kings have a very strong roster on pretty much all fronts between the dual lane, mid, even throw jungle and solo into it. It's a tough matchup to play against them just because you don't really know where you have to put your priority in the picks and bans and then the execution of the game, because it seems like any 5 of these players at any given time can carry for this team.
This Kings roster has been very, very difficult to pick and ban against because they have so many different variations of what they want to do. But as of recently, at the very least, it's been heavy prioritization on the Netrioids gods. This Rom has been the main one for him that he continues to go back to and has looked very, very good on. It seems like they really want to get their duo lane set up. And when the Kings were really starting to go on a tear, it was a lot of Terra for genetics. It was a lot of late game options for him. And it seems like they still want to continue that style, but they'll still occasionally flex him over to things like the Ymir, things like the Khepri. It's all about the team fight for this Kings roster, and it has been for the vast majority of this season. I want to see them continue to keep on prioritizing this duo lane, because I think that's been where they found the most success in their picks and bans.
And it is wild how much the picks and bans against this team has changed as the season went on. At one point it was, okay, we just need to make sure that genetics is as far down as he can get into his god pool. Make sure we're banning 4 or 5 gods against him, and then, well, in genetics it's 6, 7 bans down, ends up playing a Cerberus game, and that was kind of the turning point where everybody goes, okay, maybe we stop trying to target ban genetics, because I don't think it's working, guys.
No, he's been rock solid all year. Very, very impressed with what he's done. So excited to see what the Kings are going to bring today.
We have a very special treat for you today. Our interview is actually going to be with Biggie, the coach for the Camelot Kings. Don't really get to talk to the coaches too often, so Biggie, thank you so much for joining us on to this interview. And one thing that I think a lot of players want to know, what's it like behind the scenes for the team? Because as the coach, we don't get to see your name out there on the battleground. So what's it like behind the scenes as the coach for this team?
I think it's a lot of fun for me. I feel like I was kind of end of last year wondering whether I wanted to go another year, and I was just very specific personally about getting a team that I would enjoy in and out of game. And the good thing I like about this team is we never really come to blows over anything. It's kind of we're all on the same page most of the time, and it's a fun team to be around.
What's the drafting kind of like with this team? You know, how does it differ from some of the teams you may have coached in the past?
I think it kind of changes, as you said just before, that I think teams just kind of change up week to week who they want to kind of focus out, and I feel like that's a strength of our team is we have kind of 5 players that you don't want them to play 1 or 2 guards, and I think that kind of makes things easier. But besides that, I don't know. It's just mostly it's a kind of a 4-man effort. I would say the carries are just kind of chilling in the background when we do most of the drafting. They're just happy. Just tell me what I'm playing, and we'll carry the game.
What's the wildest thing one of your players has asked you? Like, hey, is it okay if we run this game?
I think it's just Sam. I think Sam always has some like wacky idea or some random item he wants to build, and you kind of have to keep him on a bit of a leash, but not too much. I feel like some of his creativity, especially in drafts and his picks, has been helpful a lot for us, but also there are some things that you kind of have to shut down and be like, well, that's not really going to work against top SPL teams, as opposed to him previously playing a lot of SML.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Biggie. Good luck in y'all's match today.
Thanks.
So kind of just highlighting on a lot of the points, Agger, that we mentioned where the picks and bans, they do kind of change from game to game, from team to team. Even within the same match, sometimes you have to change things up based off how game 1 or even game 2 may go.
Yeah, it's one of these teams that, I mean, you heard Biggie talk about it there, that it's a creative team. You knew it would be with guys like Genetics and Captain Twig on your roster. There's always going to be some wild ideas that are going to be tossed out there, but I think this team has found great success for a reason. These guys are not just creative, but very talented when it comes to executing on the battleground as well.
If you want to talk about creative teams as well, we got to talk a little bit about the Warriors here. I want to talk a little bit about support Neil Ma, 2-time back-to-back world champion, and he's got a little bit more of an out-there god pool compared to some of the other supports. You see more of the traditional frontline Guardians with just about everybody, some of the Warrior supports out of these guys. But Neil brings out the Guardians you don't typically expect anymore, the Kuzenbos, the RDO supports. Those are some of the more crazy things that we do sometimes see out of Neil.
I mean, Neil is just a guy that is going to make space for his team one way or another, whether it costs him his life or not. And when you've got a backline that's as good as Dardez Vote, usually that's going to end up pretty well. But the way the Warriors have really struggled is that I think that their mid 3v3 in general has really had a tough time finding success this year. And of course, Neil is a big part of that. Fred, Dardez, and Neil all being on ping is it's an unfortunate situation. We all understand that it's out of their hands. But overall for the Warriors, not just in today's game, but when it comes down to the playoffs as well, their mid 3v3 has got to be better than what we've seen from them the vast majority of the year.
We'll see what they're able to kind of adjust with today. Cuvo Fred has been kind of teetering back and forth between what options of the jungle he likes to go, whether he sticks to the more traditional Warriors that we've been seeing. Sometimes he's been going over towards this Nike. That's been picked up a few times between him and Sam for Soccer. I think those are really 2 of the only junglers who are kind of flexing over towards that god. And Dardez, well, Dardez has the world is his oyster here. We've been seeing a lot of Hera out of him recently, the Morgan as well.
Yeah, I think that Dardez finding his god pool once again, finally starting to play Hera once again. I mean, that pick was so iconic for him a couple of years ago. I love him on that selection. The Morgan allows him to be a little bit more of a playmaker. I think that Dardez finding some confidence back is going to be a big key for this team. And it's really the case for that whole 3v3 as I was just mentioning. But Dardez finding his picks once again and staying away from some of the things that other majors are playing, giving him his more signature selections, I think that's a good look for him.
With some of the recent changes that we've had in the 8.8 patch, which is where these guys are going to be playing through, do you expect to see any kind of new picks that might be coming through, or maybe some resurging picks from these teams?
Not necessarily. I don't think that it's changed that much when it comes to the mid lane meta. I mean, obviously Tiamat gets a nerf, but she still ends up being near the top. Raijin gets a nerf, still near the top. A lot of those picks are very, very similar, but I still think that Dardez has shown in the past that he's not that concerned about what's considered the best by every mid laner right now, and more like, what do I think is really good and what can I execute on? The further that Dardez, or the more that Dardez doesn't stress about what other people are playing and just more about what he can be successful on, I think the better here for the Warriors.
We'll see what adjustments they make here for picks and bans. Game number 1 between the Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors. Again, if you're just now tuning in, this is still a big, important match. This is one that the Kings need to win here if they want to take that first seed. Otherwise, it could get a little bit dicey if the Oni Warriors do manage to take the set away from them. But we'll see how all that pans out after Game 1. First bans coming through. Ymir Gilgamesh for the Oni Warriors and Yamoj on the side of the Kings. No surprises so far in the first bans.
No, pretty standard. I mean, the Warriors definitely looking at the front line here for the Kings. Twig has been so impactful on that Gilgamesh, so keeping that out of his hands makes some sense to me. Osiris is the other one that comes to mind as the typical next jungler up. We're really the first jungler up, but Gilgamesh seems to get banned a little bit more often, at least for now, though I expect that to change a little bit as we head into playoffs. The Warriors now have to make a choice, because if the Kings do a handshake deal on Osiris Tiamat, I think that they probably feel a little bit better about that, because the Kings 3v3 has been very strong in comparison to the Warriors. So if you're getting power picks in that mid 3v3, I'd rather have equally strong picks, but with our 3v3 being a little bit better. And so I think that's what the Warriors are likely discussing right now.
And I think one of the key things for Dart is for whenever he has gone back to this Hera, a lot of times he has genetics pairing up with him on the Khepri to give him a lot of extra safety. Hera, not the most mobile of gods, has some decent CC between the Polymorph, between Argus, crashing down into the midst of a team fight as well, turning it into a 6v5 in a sense, but it is a bit of a risky pick to pull it out first. We'll see where the options go. It'll be a Tiamat ban for the Oni Warriors and an Odin ban for the Kings after kind of remembering the show that Nika was able to put on with this god. No surprise to see it banned away, and that does end up leaving the Osiris open for the Warriors to take.
And that's the right pick, because Twig just controls the game pace really well on this. The Kings went through a phase, and I think that when I think of the Kings and their playstyle, I think they go through phases where they go with these different strategies, and then teams start to adjust. And then they change it, and I think that's a really good way to continue to evolve as a team. But they went through a phase where they were picking 4 late game gods and an early game jungler for Captain Twig, and just kind of letting him be the insurance policy that they wouldn't get steamrolled early. And Osiris is really good at doing that type of thing. So making sure that they don't go back to that same strategy, take away the Osiris from him. I like that pick from the Warriors. No surprise, see Netroid top to the ROM. That is what he has prioritized very heavily. And just like I was talking about before the set, it's been dual lane prioritization from the Kings, making sure that dual lane is shored up early, and that's where they go with their first 2 picks.
And especially when the top pick taken away is Captain Twig's most go-to god with that Osiris this phase at least. So with the ROM and the Khepri locked in, dual lane has been solidified for the Kings. So the question is, where does their section of the draft go next? Now the Oni Warriors, they have the option for 2 picks of their own. Could look to maybe get some dual lane, so that way it's kind of just that battle back between them. Instead, it's going to be mid lane battling it out for Hera, taking that one away. Oni Warriors will lock that in.
Not do I just love it for Dardes, though I already covered that I do. I like it up against the Khepri, because Polymorph is one of those abilities that if you're committing onto someone else, it's fairly easy to just turn and toss the Polymorph onto the Khepri, and all of a sudden he's CC'd for a long duration. It doesn't get DR'd, so even if he's been Terra rooted or stunned by Osiris or the Terra, it's not going to all of a sudden be a quick CC that he can still get his Scarab's Blessing off on the priority target. I like CC that covers a big distance or lasts for a long time when it comes to battling up against Khepri. It just gives you some counterplay options against him. So I like the Hera in that respect. But this was the pick I was going to mention, J-Mac, is that teams have really respect banned Variety's Hell consistently throughout these last few weeks. I'm surprised that the Warriors do give him not only the Hell, but then the Khepri is the insurance policy to make sure that it doesn't just get one-tapped in a fight.
And kind of the big litter for Variety is being able to have this Hell available, and because he locks in the Hell, we see the immediate ban of Cerberus, which has kind of been the go-to answer back with Hell's recent rise in the meta. Cerberus has been right there beside her the entire way, trying to bully her out in solo lane. See a little bit of that healing away through his passive, but immediately the Kings ban that away, and the Oni Warriors will take another shot at Captain Twig, banning the Erlong Shen since the jungle hasn't been locked in yet for the Kings. Kings still have a little bit more option to try and deal with some of the front line that's still remaining for it. Maybe take another shot at the solo lane, or they can take a shot for the Hunters. Instead, it will be a Kabrakan ban.
Well, the Hunter's still open, and that includes Artemis, interestingly enough. So Vote does get his choice of the premier Hunter in the meta, in my estimation, because the Kings continue to not really prioritize it super heavily. I think that that's where I'd expect him to go. It's a matter of now what Nika wants, and now you get an opportunity where if you're the Kings, I think you're almost certainly just letting Captain Twig see the entirety of this draft, because if I'm Big Man Tings, I know their support, I know their mid laner, I know their jungler. The solo laner does put a lot of pressure on you, but I already know the main things that I'm worried about in the draft. I think I'd be comfortable taking my mid laner in this slot and allowing Captain Twig to see the entire draft before locking in his pick.
Yeah, you've seen the 3v3. You know what you're fighting for the next 15 minutes of the game. Now, there is still some flexibility with the Osiris. They could throw us for a curveball and maybe toss the Osiris in the solo lane, but
sure,
that'll kind of just depend on probably what gets picked next. Is if there's something that Erlang or this Osiris can't really deal with as a mid lane selection, maybe they do throw Osiris towards the solo lane. So we'll see what the Kings elect to draft here, with the Giannis band just taking a shot at mid because they're not convinced that this hell is going to be going mid. They're more than likely going to be throwing it the way of variety. And Captain Twig going to be going back on this Ratatosker. We've seen him a few times now, and Captain Twig did have a victory with him the last time that he pulled him out. What's up with this Ratatosker rise here?
I don't know. I'm still a little surprised by it. We talked about how junglers are not necessarily your hard carries. They're your setup people, particularly early game. They're most effective with their pre-5 ganks, and then after that they start to fall off. Rat's one of those picks that brings utility throughout the game no matter what. Got a good knock-up, stun, prot shred, has some mobility, can build hybrid, which is pretty common in junglers, and so he kind of checks all of those boxes. So not too surprised, at least, that he goes back to that. But this is the real surprise, that Jormungandr comes out. But if there's anyone who's going to pick it, it's Nika. He loves this god. He always has. He's a Yorm main, one of the #1 Yorm abusers whenever Yorm was one of the best picks. And I think he's just going to try and make it work here up against the Kings.
It's the only other person who has played it so far in the Pro League. Only one game so far with this Jormungandr after his recent buffs in this patch. And there's been buff after buff for this god to try and find a good point for him, and it seems like Nika finally thinks that there may be some viability for this Guardian, so he'll be locked in. And there's a Raijin hover there, which I'm really surprised we got this far down the draft and Raijin wasn't even looked at, but instead they're going to swap it over for a Kukulkan. Talk to me a little bit about the mindset of, nah, not Raijin, let's go Kukulkan.
It's a game with Big Man Tings in it, and that's the only thing I got for you, because he's like the only guy who I would assume would go Kukulkan instead of the Raijin. But you do have pretty good setup here between the Ratatosker and the Khepri. Those are characters that can set you up for an easy Spirit of the 9 wins, and Kukulkan is oftentimes pretty binary. Am I hitting my gigantic damage ultimate? If yes, then I'm probably doing pretty well. If I'm not, then I'm probably fairly worthless in these team fights. I don't mind it up against the Osiris either, for what it's worth. I mean, you have the slow immunity on the 2. That feels really good. The Terra is going to give him problems, though. I mean, just having a guaranteed AoE root that he doesn't have an answer to, that's difficult for a character like Kukulkan, who doesn't have that true mobility except for the movement speed boost and doesn't have any CC immunity in the kit. So if I'm Neil, I'm telling Dardes, yo, I'm coming mid early. As soon as you're 5, we're dropping Argus on him. We're slamming him that way, and that's got to be the play. I do think that Kukulkan can kite Argus fairly well, even whenever that Divine Shroud goes out and Argus gets hit with the turbo jets. Kukulkan's 2 will get him away anyways. You can kite Argus fairly well. So don't hate that matchup in the mid lane 1v1, but of course we all know it's never really a 1v1 in mid.
Oni Warriors want a big win here, not that they need it necessarily, but for them to get that big win, what's kind of that win condition for the Warriors?
I think it's shutting down Big Man Tings for sure, and allowing a good dive alongside this Terra, Yorm, and Osiris, making sure this hell is uncomfortable, spreading out these team fights a little bit, and making sure this Khepri doesn't get guaranteed value out of his ultimate. The Oni Warriors don't really need you to be super grouped. They wouldn't hate it because they have the Terra on their side, but there's the hell on the other side. I think I'd rather see them try and spread these fights out and take them down that way.
The Camelot Kings, they're going to need a big victory here today if they want to take first seed. The Oni Warriors are going to try and play a playoff ruiner. We'll see if they can do it. Let's go to game 1 with Dulcin and Mifflin.
Destiny is in their hands for the Camelot Kings, and they can get it, being top 2 in the Phase 2 playoffs with a win here over the Oni Warriors. Things get interesting. Only in a loss, Kings could win this 1 in 3, and they'll still be one of the top 2 teams in the Phase 2 playoffs. If the Oni Warriors are able to win, that's when the Kings have to worry about tiebreakers and maybe not being a top 2 team in the playoffs after all. Though, Mifflin, if the Kings have it their way and if they play the way they have been, this one should be a win for the Camelot Kings.
Yeah, the Oni Warriors looking for an upset here, Dave, and they've got a good composition for it. The Oni Warriors have the added benefit of being one of the only teams, if not the only team, to have a Hera, or maybe just Dardes is the only player.
It might just be Dardes.
To have a Hera. I mean, it's hard to play against things you're not used to, right? So, assuming that the Camelot Kings and the Oni Warriors aren't exactly scrim partners, you got to think that the matchup knowledge isn't quite there, and Hera kind of dictates you need to know how to play against her. She's got great survivability.
Sure.
And a bubble buddy. Pretty nice.
On the flip side of that, I'm not sure how used to Kukul Khan, the Oni Warriors are going to be, right? I mean, big man Tings on the Cuckoo in the mid lane. That's a bit different. This is like early Season 8 style of draft here from the Camelot Kings. Let's set up big man Tings on something with an insta-Gib style of ultimate plus Captain Twig on something that sets that up. And that 1-2 is very effective. Sprinkled in, Miff, with a little bit of this new age look at the Camelot Kings with variety on Hell in the solo lane.
Yeah, back 6 months ago, this would have been Naja Ra, and functionally the same thing. Dunk from the Ratatasker from across the cosmos, and then immediately into the Spirit of the Nine Winds. But I think you're right to highlight that this Hell is really a new look for the Camelot Kings, and it's a look that a lot of players have been looking to replicate, hasn't it? I mean, it's been that dominant for variety out of the soul lane. My only concern for the Camelot Kings inside of the late game team fight is that this is a very high execution draft. If Captain Twig isn't finding value from his ultimate, if Big Man Tings isn't connecting consistently with Spirit of the Nine Winds, I don't care how much sustain you have, and they've got a lot of it thanks to variety, you're really going to struggle to finish off some of these kills. And the Oni Warriors have phenomenal dive potential. Jormungandr can close gap into the back line like just about nobody else. Just that World Serpent is so incredibly strong. And then you got Cuvo Fred doing Osiris things. We all know what he does because everyone's kind of playing this god right now.
Osiris,
And you got Terra as well. That's not only engage, but also counter-engage if the fight starts to go sour. The Oni Warriors have a very formidable draft.
Let's see what Captain Twig can get done around this red buff here. Dardes will start it up. Twig rounds the corner early. Dardes quick on the bubble. Will get the stun out of Captain Twig as well. Not sure Dardes is in real threat of dying here, but you got to wonder where Cuvo Fred is. He's pushing in on the blue buff on the right-hand side of the map, so this should be a free invade for the Camelot Kings, and it does end up going down quietly. Some action over by the purple buff, though, as well. That one got invaded, and it looks like successfully by the Camelot Kings. So lots of pressure already on the left side of the map.
Yeah, we got a red and purple buff invade for the Kings. Meanwhile, Cuvo able to at least strip away the blue and back camps from the Camelot Kings themselves. So speed buff not invaded. It's so hard to get yourself all the way back there. Very high risk as well. At the end of the day, Camelot Kings come out ahead just 2-1 on the buff invade, but it's not what you could do with the first rotation of buffs. It's what you do with that timer, and they've got a great draft, the Kings that is, to keep up these invades.
Yeah, I'm wondering, you talk about sustain and the ability to clean up fights while Neilma steals away the purple buff. Nice sneaky steal there for Neilma to at least even things out just a little bit. Netroid won't get his second free purple buff of the last couple of minutes. Genetics is going to be obnoxious in this composition as well. And it's going to be interesting watching how patient Genetics is on this Khepri pick with those Scarab's Blessings, because Variety is going to be able to do a lot of sustaining, and hesitating on the Scarab's Blessing might be the right call if Variety's able to top off some of those health bars. But that's where then anti-heal has to come to the conversation, Miff, because you're dealing with Variety and a lot of the healing that he's going to be able to put out. Tainted Steel early for Nika, of course, that's going to help in lane immediately. You imagine we see everyone on the Oni Warriors, maybe save vote, start to prioritize a little bit of that anti-heal, or is one Hell not that scary?
I think there's going to be a fair deal of anti-heal coming from the Oni Warriors. In particular, Nika likely going to look for some of those aura items, or maybe even Neilma as well. One downside of this draft for the Warriors is that Dardes is not the best applicator of Divine Ruin, but we have seen Terra players in the past go for the Divine Ruin themselves. Generally a very strong applicator, as you have entire lanes worth of lockdown. So keep your eyes on Neilma's build, see if he's looking for that adaptation.
Blue buff invade goes to Captain Twig and the Camelot Kings. Nika on this Jormungandr. One level behind, maybe a half level behind of Variety there on that Hell. And this is smart from Cuvo Fred. The last time this red buff was up, got invaded by Captain Twig. And so we're going to rotate on over, help out our Oni Warriors in the mid lane, and get that red buff all secured for themselves here. So Neilma and Genetics will rotate onto the mid lane for the first time in this game. I think that Khepri is such a unique look here for Genetics, a guy who has really started to carve out a niche role in the support meta. You know, the Ymirs, the Terras, Yemojas, things like that. And so I have a lot of heightened expectations for what he's going to be able to do on a pick like this.
No, I've got great expectations for him as well, and he's got a great draft to utilize the Scarab's Blessing, as you already highlighted earlier on. Camelot Kings are able to immediately strip away the Forp. I said it, aggro's in the office today, so I have to.
Yep.
Forp taken by the Camelot Kings. And
contractually obligated.
This is a team that really likes to force these neutral objectives very early on. They are looking to spawn them almost the very second that they spawn up, the Greater Scorpions that is, and you can already see Captain Twig starting his rotation over to this side. They're not concerned with whether or not they have pressure in any of these lanes. They are simply trying to control neutral objectives and get as much farm as possible, and generally, this has been very helpful for the Camelot Kings, and you can see it reflected already in the gold. Nothing really happening on the map, no fighting either, but still, ward coverage, all Kings across the map. Gold coverage, also them by about 500.
Well, you might have cursed Variety here, Mifflin. Cubo Fred onto the right side of the map. One sash is on out. Cleanse is there to keep the stun from connecting, but Nika and Cubo Fred rather have enough range onto Variety to pick up first blood. So the Hell kept in check early on here. And it's Nika on the Jormungandr with a little bit of extra damage early in the build, able to put Variety down.
That's great timing from Cubo Fred. May have been one of the last opportunities to go for that, but maybe gets himself cocked.
Watch out. Captain Twig dunks down, but doesn't end up getting the knock-up. The stun is there on the back end, and he whirls him to the grave. Captain Twig able to answer back. That is unfortunate timing for the Oni Warriors. The blue buff now up on the right side of the map. Dardez is going to rotate over. And that'll keep Captain Twig at bay. Argus was ready to go. And that's a sneaky amount of damage. Charon's coin early on in this build for Dardez. You drop down Argus. And there's going to be a lot of damage flying in, and Captain Twig learns that the hard way.
Dardez, had he connected that polymorph on the initial, likely would have dropped Argus on Twig a little bit sooner. Does eventually end up using his ultimate. Gets a fair deal of damage. And Big Man Things on the other side. Netroid with a solo kill. It's action across the board.
Yeah, what is happening here? Netroid narrowly wins a 1v1 against Vote there. Both of the Hunter ultimates are down. And so you imagine Netroid just sent the last couple of snipes through to clean up the kill on the Vote, who may have used that airstrike defensively, I imagine. We'll get a look at that a little bit later on. Cubo Fred, though, sensing that Big Man Ting's ultimate is down. Make his way to the mid lane here, and so blue buff, or red buff rather, gets invaded, but it's a good abduct from Genetics onto Neilma. The tick damage from Big Man Tings has done a lot, but it has not done enough. A successful invade for the Oni Warriors as Neilma grabs the red, but dangerously close to going down for his efforts.
Yet another display on what makes Terra so good. You think you're going to finish him off with Tornadoes when Earthern Fury is available? That tick damage just procs the heal immediately, and Neilma walks his way out of there. And it's not just the Tornadoes. The second ability from Genetics on Kepri, yeah, that's proccing the heal. I mean, just about anything here is going to proc the heal. Flurry from Captain Twig being channeled consistent damage. All of these things add up to almost guaranteed heal for Neilma inside of the team fight. The only thing that's really going to shut him down in a one-tap is Spirit of the Nine Winds.
Let's see what happened here over in the duo lane as Netroid and Vote took the old rare 1v1. Netroid actually somewhat happy, I think, to take that dash in. Oh, airstrike channels just a bit too late. I love this. Game of cat and mouse up in the air, and then the last couple of snipes, of course, from Netroid able to connect there on the Vote. That one was close, but now that lane a lot more difficult. Captain Twig up into the sky. And that'll keep the Ratatosker safe. Variety avoids the stun from Neilma that never ended up coming out. It looks like Captain Twig will dunk back down into safety. Nika, able to provide some decent damage in these fights, has gone Divine Ruin first and foremost. So we wondered where we'd see some anti-heal. So early damage on the Jormungandr actually feeling okay.
It is. He's got decent just dive potential as well. The stealth in, and Vote maybe looking for a 1v1, the revenge kill, but not going to pan out this time around. Got to imagine that Vote is going to play very passive until he gets that next item completed. The Rage is the second item slot.
This would be difficult for Genetics and Variety, though. Nika takes a lot of damage here. That's what you're sacrificing, right? I mean, Jormungandr, such a big target to take a lot of damage, and you're sacrificing a lot of that.
No!
Just going to get walked down. You got to hit one here, Netroid. One gets used. That target is real small here around the corner. No good on the second, and Vote with 28 HP, able to stay alive. And Nika with also red HP. Keeps himself on the map. Now it's going to be red buff invade by the Oni Warriors. Earthen Fury down by Neilma. Captain Twig wants nothing to do with it, though. And this is what you have to do if you're the Camelot Kings. We've got advantage on left, advantage on right. And a tier 1 tower goes down in the solo lane.
If you guys haven't been tuning in for the Monday content days, you would know Netroid is the most soloing-ist player in the Hunter role. He gets the most solo kills, is what I'm trying to say, and he adds 1 so far inside of this match and looks to add another as Dardes finds Big Man Tings.
Oh, and it's a great target for Argus. Big Man Ting's health is going to absolutely melt here. Numa does some good damage. Spirit of the Nine Winds just separates out the last bit of this fight. Genetics pulls Dardes right back into the fray. Variety is here from the solo lane as well, and the chase is on. Beads get used by Dardes, but Captain Twigs got a whole lot of damage. Numa claps the wall for 3 stuns, but it's a double for the Ratatoskr, and the Camelot Kings are rolling.
It's just Twig has so much damage, catches out Dardes isolated, and here's where that early objective play comes into play. The Camelot Kings spawn this at about the 5-minute mark, and off of just 2 picks are going for the goal.
Nika is here from the solo lane. Look at Captain Twig. He could re-engage. It could be a Fury and then some for the Camelot Kings. Is Cubo Fred the dunk target? Yes, he is, but he won't be hit. No stun, and the Lord of the Afterlife secures the exfil for Cubo Fred. So it's actually, it's a kill earlier on before the Gold Fury, and then Gold Fury, and the Camelot Kings widen up that gold lead, 3.4K.
That is a ridiculous lead at the 11-minute mark, and most of that gold is still in hand. 2,100 being held on to by Big Man Ting, so you better believe his next back is going to be followed by a massive power spike. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this, Dave. It's Book of Thoth selection for Kukulkan. That's pretty core. That's been core on this god for the longest time.
He knows a lot about his core.
Yeah,
Pilates,
right? Yeah, okay, nice. Wasn't that fine? Okay, is he even in this game, bud?
No, he's not.
Okay, he knows a lot about his core. Divine Ruin is the selection for him as well to deal with some of the healing on the side of the Oni Warriors, but Kukulkan is a god that transfers mana directly into power, so he's getting the double whammy. That is a huge power spike on the item itself, and just a great passive to utilize all that mana sustain.
Can Variety sustain himself on the 2-man tower dive? World Serpent from Nika will do just fine in closing that gap. Variety is dodging out a whole lot. Cubo Fred still tanking up the tower.
No way.
Variety nearly turns around the kill. Nika finally gets it. Can Captain Twig get to the right side of the map in time? Does not have his ultimate, so it seems like Cubo Fred and Nika will narrowly escape.
Bro, if I'm Variety there, I am raging. Captain Twig is on the hunt, but gets there just in time to watch Osiris go down the drain and make his way back to base. Variety bought so much time inside of that engagement and almost turns it around completely. If Captain Twig's just a little bit closer, that ultimate, had it been available, would have completely changed the fight, but with all that time purchased, Variety sends 2 back to base. Camelot Kings, that objective-oriented gameplay, going to pick up yet another one. 13 minutes in, they've already done both the gold and the pyro.
Yeah, and the gold lead has now grown another 500 or so in the 2 minutes that we've last talked about it. And the Camelot Kings able to take advantage of the abandoned right side of the map. Nika, look, it looks like Nika's on a straight path to being a stalwart here for this Oni Warriors team. 2-0 on the Jormungandr, 1 level lead over Variety. Divine Ruin now into a little bit of defense as he picks up the Genji's card. And so the Oni Warriors are going to have to lean on their solo laner once again. This is a strategy that the Oni Warriors have had to employ at different parts throughout this year. And the carry potential of the Jormungandr will certainly be put up to the test.
And he doesn't have nearly as much as Genetics does pull in Dardes, forces out the beads, and drops him just below half.
Dardes will use Argus, but Captain Twig able to dash away. So the Cosmos is
1,
there. Oh wait, the snipes from Netroid! How could I forget? Dardes seemingly did. In Netroid, he has been absolutely on point with the snipes on this ROM so far this game. The Camelot Kings playing like a team that does not want to leave things up to a tiebreaker. They don't want to leave things up to chance going into the Phase 2 playoffs. They want that first seed. And if they're playing like this all day today, they might get there. Are you kidding me? Big Man Tings from downtown wipes Neumar from the map.
Big Man Tings just does it all on his own here, and the Camelot Kings going to use that pressure to push into the Tier 2.
No way Cubo Fred wants to fight this, right? I mean, yeah, you're under a tower, but you're against 5 of the Camelot Kings. That's Lord of the Afterlife into the backline. Big knockup on the other end from the Oni Warriors, but look out for Captain Twig. He's gone into the Tier 2 tower. That'll finally separate out this fight. There was some good damage from the Oni Warriors that makes the Camelot Kings think twice. How obnoxious, though. 1 death goes down because Netroid from way back in the middle of the lane hits snipes. And then another death goes down for the Oni Warriors because Big Man Tings just sends an ult through. Numa and Dardes felt like they were both way behind their Tier 2 tower. But you can't play safe anywhere.
It was just such a casual play from Big Man Tings as well. Just walks himself, or waddles rather, his way into the jungle and shoots one over the wall. And it's a low-risk engagement. If he doesn't hit the ultimate, you got to think, all right, Camelot Kings are just going to back up, go back to their own towers, go back to their own lanes and start farming. Because losing out on Spirit of the Nine wins there, 0 opportunity cost. You're not going for a Gold Fury. It's already dead. You're not going for Fire Giant. We're like 15 minutes into a game. Yeah, might as well go for those high-risk or low-risk, high-reward plays. And my man hits it, and he finds that high reward. Unfortunately, though, good play from Nika and Cubo Fred both are able to stop the Camelot Kings from further pushing that lead. Instead, just pepper a little bit of damage into that tier 2 mid tower.
Here's the only part of your analysis that I disagree with.
Please.
I don't think Kukulkan Khan waddles.
Okay, well, like it's like a
it's like an air slither.
Yeah, but like slithering for non-pedal entities.
Yeah.
Is that the correct terminology?
I guess it looks like a waddle, but
yeah, he's
because he's hovering, it's a little bit different. Point still stands though. That Big Man Tings is having a game. He is 3 levels up over Dardes in the mid lane. 2 levels as I finish the sentence.
So
Captain
fast.
Twig 3 levels up. Immediately over to the Primal Fury go the Camelot Kings. They've got their ults to secure this one, and the Camelot Kings secure it indeed. Argus is going to make things interesting, though, as the Camelot Kings have to avoid a whole lot of damage. Cubo Fred gets the knockup from Captain Twig, who's down from his ultimate, and Netrioid peppers the front line with the snipes, but he crashes right back down in front of Cubo Fred, and the Oni Warriors have found a rare kill here. Can the World Serpent proc that Scarab's Blessing? Big Man Tings will get away for the time being, and now it's timed out.
It's a disengage fully from the Camelot Kings, who are forced to retreat here. Oni Warriors, though, stick around, dive deep into the tier 2 tower and lose out on a lot of their health. The Camelot Kings can utilize the healing and speed boost from Hell to re-engage this fight.
Dardes has taken about 6 tower shots in the last minute or 2. And so he's going to walk back into this fight a little bit low on HP. Genetics will get put down by Vote. And the Oni Warriors have maybe turned this game around a bit here, Myth. The Camelot Kings, when playing on the front foot, have been absolutely unstoppable, but the Oni Warriors catch them off balance. Neomop might be the sacrifice, potentially a sacrifice the Oni Warriors are okay with.
Variety's going to keep on going and take up the tower for his teammate here. Healing is good, but maybe not the chase. I can't imagine Captain Twig's loving his chances here.
Yeah, you wouldn't think, especially not without the ultimate. Variety's just going. He's going to sustain himself up a little bit more, stopping all these back. Yeah, that's just obnoxious, right? The Oni Warriors with 4 can't go back against the Camelot Kings, and so the space gets opened up a little bit. Pyromancer are about to respawn, and so maybe that's where the Camelot Kings start to shift their focus. You got to talk about what happened there, though, Myth, because the Camelot Kings have been running every aspect of this game, and that starts all back when Netrioid comes back down from the ultimate and gets caught out.
Yeah, just tries to put a little bit of damage to dissuade the Oni Warriors from chasing out that fight post Gold Fury, and the Oni Warriors say, all right, well, he's got to land. What goes up must come down, and he comes down into a knockup from Vote immediately into 2 crits from this Jing Wei, and a little bit more damage from the rest of the team completely shifts how that one pans out. The Oni Warriors, though, a little overzealous on the chase going into the tier 2 tower. I mean, you said it. Dardes 6 tower shots. Whoa. You don't want your mage tanking that.
Well, the Camelot Kings take Pyro, and the Oni Warriors might now think that that means the Kings are gone. But that is an incorrect theory. The Camelot Kings still close enough by, especially with a lot of the range that the Camelot Kings have. Whether it's this Ratatoskr ultimate, the snipes from Netrioid, Big Man Tings with the Spirit of the Nine wins. You can never count yourself out of a fight until you truly have gone back to the fountain, it seems, here if you're the Oni Warrior. So maybe just seeing what the response was. And there was a response from the Camelot Kings. That was a great fight for Vote, though, because now surpasses Netrioid, who, remember, was getting solo kills in that lane.
He was whopping them. You can say that.
I don't think I'm allowed to, so I'm not going to. Vote has
whopped.
2 stacks. Nope, not saying it. Has 2 stacks on his Rage here. And it was an interesting build path choice. Getting the Rage early. What you're hoping, I guess, Myth, is that you're in these fights early and you can get some value with those stacks, and Vote definitely did.
He does need 3 more to find the fully stacked Rage, so maybe a couple more team fights are all the Oni Warriors need to start to hit their stride. Does have a little bit of additional penetration online now thanks to the Wind Demon as well as Crit, so should be a little bit more consistent inside of these engagements. And the one difference between these Hunter builds that is always going to ring true is that Netrioid shreds tanks. He's going to shred the front line of the Oni Warriors. Vote shreds carries and objectives. If the Oni Warriors are able to win out on a team fight cleanly, or at least keep Vote alive, Fire Giant's on the menu at this point.
Yep. And you have to wonder about Spectral Armor for the Camelot Kings. We'll see how much the front lines want to prioritize that. Variety continuing to wheel and deal this damage into the Oni Warriors, and it has just been annoying to go up against Variety on this hell. And you look forward to the Phase 2 playoffs, an event that both of these teams will be playing in. Teams have got to figure out an answer to this hell. And you know, maybe it's anti-heal, maybe it's overwhelming dive, we'll see. But Variety has been near the top of his game on this pick. Neoma slowed to all hell, it feels like, and hell is the one who finally seals the deal. Neoma walks forward and does not walk back. The Camelot Kings now playing with house money. They got a one-man advantage.
That was all Big Man Ting's tornado placement. Zoning third ability keeps Neoma towards the entirety of the Camelot Kings. It's essentially a wall at this point. If I'm anyone on the Warriors, I'm not walking through that.
Oh my god, Nika takes a lot of damage here from Captain Twig and Variety. Captain Twig going with a bit of that glass cannon and Ratatosker build, so that's why we see a lot of damage connect onto Nika. Right back to the FG go the Camelot Kings, though. They're going to be able to do this one somewhat quickly, and they have Spirit of the Nine Winds to capitalize it and really seal the Fire Giant secure. Cubo Fred walks in and uses Lord of the Afterlife to walk out, but it's a good route from Genetics, and Tornado is still weaving in some damage on the backline. Can Twig and Variety close this gap? Well, when he got into the Cosmos, the answer is almost certainly yes. But now Captain Twig has used this ult, and the rest of the team is not there. Can he solo out Cubo Fred? The polymorph is great from Dardes, who does have Argus. Dardes pulls the trigger and doesn't pull the trigger just yet.
Neoma is finding himself respawned and back in the engagement, just trying to stop the Camelot Kings from putting their DPS into the fire.
Whoa. Argus chasing down now Big Man Tings and Captain Twig. A couple swishy targets that Dardes would like to deal some damage to. At this point, Argus is down at half HP. You just like to back up if you're the Camelot Kings, sustain up with Variety. Wow. With these crits, Vote is absolutely making quick work of this FG, this back and forth, this tug of war. You got to look at the ultimates. Camelot Kings in a pretty good statement position with the ultimates that they've got. Cubo Fred has to walk out from the left. Captain Twig gets Nika dealt on the right. Netrioid hits the snipes yet again. And Dardes finally in the grave.
If you're the Warriors, you got to win that first fight. And you don't just get damage. You don't force them back. You have to get kills if you want to win these engagements. Variety keeps the whole team topped off.
Can Neoma make some magic happen? He is around the backside of this FG pit as it's continuing to be worked out by the Oni Warriors. Spirit of the Nine Winds will not only secure the FG, but it'll deal some damage to Neoma. And this is the tipping point in this game. The Oni Warriors had a foothold, but that foothold has crumbled.
Desynced deaths as well. 20 seconds on Dardes, 20 seconds on Neoma. And it just felt like the Warriors were walking in one at a time. That fight starts, Cubo Fred blinking in to buy time on the Fire Giant. Does survive for a little bit thanks to a missed pluck from Genetics. And then who walks in after that? Neoma on his own. Loses out on his life. Dardes gets caught out by the root. The Oni Warriors have not been able to group up as 5 on a defense as of yet.
Not yet. Now maybe with some of the respawns coming out, they might be able to. Nika cannot even make it into the World Serpent because Captain Twig is on a rampage and he's got a double kill. 604 on the glass cannon Ratatosker out of the jungle, and those cannonballs are melting the Oni Warriors this game.
Now it's time to push into that mid-Phoenix. The Camelot Kings not going to leave it up to fate. Don't want to put it on a coin toss. Instead, strip everything that they can on the map. Now defense is removed. Titans opening up.
Oh, and there's a root onto Neoma. Watch that health bar go. Oh, it's a big Argus from Dardes, though. And that'll keep the Camelot Kings at bay for the moment. Netrioid is in the sky, and these snipes have been feeling it all game long. One hits onto Vote, but there's still Argus as the unofficial 6th man here for the Oni Warriors, but 2 are still dead. So there's only 4 on the map for the Oni Warriors. Captain Twig unstoppable, Big Man Tings insatiable, and the Camelot Kings take game 1.
Convincing win for the Camelot Kings here, Dave. That was unbridled aggression with a late game composition. That is nuts. Variety left alone on an island for the entirety of this match, and it just didn't matter. This Jormungandr could not establish a lead. At the end of the day, the Oni Warriors could not figure out how to deal with all that healing.
It feels like this is like a 3-headed beast of the Camelot Kings, even 4 or 5, I guess. I was about to shout out, if it doesn't feel like mid lane's dealing the damage, it feels like jungle's doing the damage. Doesn't feel like jungle's doing the damage, feels like ADC's doing the damage. Variety has had some incredible games, and Genetics is also playing out of his minds. That's all 5.
Oh, God.
The damage this game done by effectively everyone, though, Mifflin. The Oni Warriors got to kind of replan everything. It feels like Camelot Kings one step closer to that first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs. Can they seal it up in Game 2? Stick around to find out.
So here's the pitch, okay? We've all seen Myth Swifts. It's that outtake show, and it was running in. I saw chat spamming when I told Jordan to focus. So we're gonna run with that. Strike while the iron is hot. Jordan sitting at his desk at the video team section. I don't know what they do. I don't care what they do. But for the premise of this video, cannot be focused. Watching anime butts on one screen. I don't care what he's doing. Just can't be working. All right. And then he hears Myth Swifts. Big TV right behind him. Myth Swifts playing. Here's the line. Says Jordan, focus. Okay. And then his eyes go wide. He turns around, turns off the TV. He's trying to get rid of me. He knows he's not focused, but he knows he needs to be. But goes back to his desk, goes back to doing whatever he's doing. But he has to focus. So I'm at his window. Boom, slam on the window. I'm like the Babadook, okay? He doesn't know where I'm coming from. I slam the window, piece of paper, says focus. He does a little bit. He focuses a little bit. He doesn't turn off the anime butts. No. He flips his hat around, Ash Ketchum style. I don't know. And then he goes back to doing anything he wants, but not focusing. That's not enough for me. That's not enough for hi-rez. It's not enough for what we stand for. So I appear behind the wall behind him, okay? Boom, Mifflin, up there. I tell him to tighten up. He needs to focus. He does a little bit more. He focuses a little bit, but not enough, okay? And then it's not enough for me. It's not enough for me, okay? We have to go even further beyond that, all right? He does eventually close the screen, but that's not enough. I'm still appearing. I'm appearing everywhere. I'm in the bathroom. I'm in his cereal. I'm in his snacks. I'm telling him to focus, and eventually he switches desks. I'm under his desk, okay? I'm telling him to focus there, and that's where it happens. He sits in a maxonomic chair, his eyes dilate, and he finally finds his focus.
Okay. Approved.
I sold it? I sold it! Yes! I'm gonna sell so many chairs.
Jordan, what the was that? We just lived a fever dream. I have no idea what just happened, and we approved it.
What kind of anime butts we talking? What kind of anime butts we talking?
Hello and welcome back into the SPL. Thanks to one of our title sponsors here, Maxnomic. You can get your own SMITE Maxnomic chair, help you focus up, and anyone else who you may need to focus up. You can pick one of those up at needforseat.com. Use code SMITEMAX. Get yourself a nice little discount and get yourself planted in a Maxnomic SMITE chair so you can get all your work done and, more importantly, so you can watch the remainder of this set. Jim McTucker and Aggro join me again here for game number 2 to get set up for it. But game number 1, it didn't look too difficult for the Kings. They made it look pretty easy across the map.
They did. I mean, look, you get variety on the Hell solo, and you know that your late game is good to go, and you've got genetics on the Khepri, so you know that, oh no, we got one shot on the Hell, then all of a sudden we start to lose. That's not really a reality. Netrioid gets off to a great start. He solo kills Vote in a very close fight, a little bit unlucky for Vote, but a great play from Netrioid, of course, who continues to look incredible on this ROM. Captain Twig kept the pace high, finished, 6-0 on that Ratatosker. When you've got all those pieces working together, and Big Man Things casually one-shot some people. When you got all those things working together, you're going to end up winning fairly convincingly, and that's what happened here for the Kings.
Yeah, it was one of those moments there for the Kings where they said, okay, Captain Twig, do whatever you want across the map. He says, you know what? I'm going to make sure that variety's okay. I'm going to keep him in check more than anything else. And so Netroid says, no big deal, boss. I'll deal with the left side of the map. You see the first solo kill here. He actually almost got a second one not too long after that. But Netroid able to hold the fort down left side of the map. It allowed Captain Twig to rotate wherever he was needed, whether it was solo lane or mid lane towards some of these objectives, and help keep his team in check, make sure to keep them up ahead in pace. And, well, once they finally established that early lead, the Camelot Kings never lost it.
They were really good at keeping the pace high and not allowing the Warriors some moments to farm back up. Not that it would have really mattered too much, I don't think, just based on composition alone. The Kings build for this type of time, for the late game type of fight, and if they get there ahead, you've got nearly no shot at coming back.
Looking across the board for some of the hunters that Netroid has played throughout the course of his last few games, it's 2. He's played 2 different hunters over 14 different games. Rom and Izanami. Maybe it's time we start taking a look at Netroid. Maybe get him on something that he hasn't been playing pretty much all phase.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I think we got to worry a little bit more about Variety's Hell first and foremost.
Maybe.
I mean, that's going to be a problem for you.
15,000.
That's the thing with hunters, is that they all functionally do the same thing.
Right.
Everyone has a little bit of a different strength. Rom, of course, with that long-range damage. Can you take that out of his hands? Sure. And will he be able to find another hunter that does that same exact thing? No, but something similar that he's still going to be good on. Hell enables your team composition to do things that no other character in the game is going to let you do. So for me, I'd be looking to ban the Hell against the Kings until I feel like we really have a way to beat it, which no one has really showed me quite yet.
I mean, they had an opportunity with it. They had the Jormungandr go, the Tainted Steel, and Divine Ruin. So that's 70% anti-heal that this Jormungandr can apply. But he's not able to apply it to all 5 people. Neek is not able to be enough of that front line to apply. And then you're also losing out some of that tankiness that you need with this Jormungandr because of it. And they're just not able to stop it. I think it's 15,000 player healing that Variety put up in this game. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking back to you, and maybe we do need to get rid of this Hell.
I mean, certainly someone at Phase 2 playoffs is going to have to be coming up with a plan, because you can't just assume that you're down 1 ban against the Kings for the rest of time, or waiting until Hell gets nerfed or something like that. There's really only one guy playing it this well, and it's a Variety. So teams have got to start coming up with a plan against it.
We'll see if the Warriors do decide to take it away from Variety in game number 2. Picks and bans are underway. We'll see what new adjustments have been made for the Oni Warriors looking towards this second game. The Hell was a big problem for them. One of the things that it's talked about so much is, do you throw a ban towards X God because it performed so well in this game? And I think that X factor for it is, do you maybe throw a ban at Ratatosker to try and keep it away from Captain Twig, or do you just go, well, maybe we just try and push him towards something different? I mean, they took the Osiris away from him, and he didn't seem deterred one bit.
No, he looked great on the Ratatosker. I'm fine with a bottom 2 Rat ban. That doesn't offend me at all. I think that makes sense to me, but certainly not top 3. You just don't have the space, because you've got to ban Hell now, and that's exactly what the Oni Warriors do. But that does mean the Gilgamesh is now open, because that was their ban in game 1. And Osiris still, because the Kings stick with their exact same 3 bans. So you're left with a choice, and you get the same Osiris, but now Twig has his choice between going for the Gilgamesh or something like that Ratatosker once again.
We'll see what he decides to go with. First bans through were the Hell, Ymir, and Tiamat. Meanwhile, flip side, the Kings take Odin, Serket, and Yamoja, so no difference in their draft. The only thing that changed amongst all of it was going to be the Hell, which was, I believe, trade out for Gilgamesh this time around. So the Kings can take Gilgamesh if they want, and I think this might be the best time to take it, because you can run the Osiris-Gilgamesh combo lane. You can throw Osiris in the solo or into the jungle. Same with Gilgamesh. You can flex between those two for it. And the Kings, they're going to focus up their duo lane early, make sure to get Netroid back on his Rom for a first pick again.
Yeah, why wouldn't you go Rom Capri here if you're the Kings? I mean, maybe if you think they might take the Gilgamesh and the Osiris, that's a fine adjustment to make, but I was going to say, I doubt that they make a change. And it's no surprise that these two continue to get picked together. Their win rate's very close. 68%, I think it was, for Rom. 69% for Kepri. So they're winning at very similar clips. And the Warriors this time around are going to take the Izanami, trying to get something going here for Vote to try and turn it around. Would like to see them switch up the Terra pick as well. Neil just was not on the same page with the rest of the team. And whether or not that's on Neil or on the rest of the team, it's really hard for us to say, but you need to get everyone in with that big ultimate out of the Terra, and that just didn't really happen at all in game 1.
Dart is taking a swing around here, going away from the Hera that he played game number 1, instead looking towards the Morrigan. Morrigan picked up early in the draft is one of those kind of risky plays here. You're kind of revealing, you're saying, look, we can make all these big double plays, but also kind of makes the enemy team think, okay, maybe we don't draft this guy because now they can have one onto their team for it. And the Kings don't care. The Gilgamesh was left open, so they will pick that one as a response. And that leaves their mid and their solo to be their final picks going through. So now we start walking into the second round of bans.
Yeah, I like the Gilgamesh selection. I mean, that's just something that, again, Twig it allows him to be the initiator for this team and fight select really well. And that's one of his strengths as a player, always has been in his career. You look at what the Oni Warriors need now. They just need frontline to lock in for this Morrigan and Izanami. So what are Nika and Neil going to go towards? I mean, Kings are probably going to just be looking at Nika's God Pool, as that's really been the star so far this season for the Oni Warriors. The Warriors, when you've got 2 different roles that are as different as mid and solo lane, I wonder which direction they're going to go. I mean, do you really have to ban Kukulkan? I wouldn't think so, but if they don't know what else to go towards, you can always just toss it towards what they blocked in last time around.
I'm honestly shocked that Cerberus has made it to second phase of bans both of these games. This may not be the Nika pick necessarily, or maybe even a Variety pick, but just in general, this god has been so much of a nuisance for just about every single team that he gets drafted up against. The area control that he has with Stingent Torment, the shred that he has from that Ghastly Breath. I'm just shocked that pretty much not everybody is picking up this Guardian for solo.
He's been prioritized pretty highly, and a lot of teams have been picking him pretty high, but you're right, the Warriors and the Kings both have let him go down, especially whenever the Hell got locked in on the other side. They picked it right before the ban phase so that they could make sure that Cerberus gets banned away. And with healers starting to become more and more prevalent and more successful in the SPL meta, I think that Cerberus's value is just going to rise because of that passive.
The Kings will take away their own Terra, because they've already got a pick for Gen X. So they don't need it necessarily for themselves. Instead, it allows the Oni Warriors to take away the Giannis and the Xing Chen just to get some of that front line away and strip that one away from Variety. But Variety doesn't care about that because thanks to Hardcore, now we get to be seeing a lot more RDO in the meta as it's been locked in here for the Kings.
And really thanks to those buffs in the last patch more than anything else. I mean, you get 2 seconds off your first ability, which counts for both Druid and Bear Stance, and you now move doubly as fast whenever you're dashing in Bear Stance. So a much faster dash, covers a lot of her weaknesses that she used to have, makes her that much more of a lane bully, which she already was. Think that she still struggles when it comes to the late game. It's hard for her to find fights where she doesn't just get blown up for not having any CC immunity, doesn't feel like the tankiest Guardian the vast majority of the time, oftentimes an easy target in your late game team fights, especially in a meta where the Hunters and the Mages are doing so much damage. But personally, I love the utility that the RDO brings. I think her healing is really underrated in what she brings to a team composition, and her lockdown, of course, very good as well.
Oni Warriors with their final 2 selections. Their first one is going to be Hercules and then a Cthulhu to round things out here. So it will be Hercules going support this time around. Neil Ma going to be piloting that god, Osiris into the jungle, and Cthulhu solo. At least that's where I imagine everything is going to lie out for these teams. Camelot Kings, they're still looking for their final selection again, leaving it for Big Man Teams to be the final lock-in. And I said I was shocked at the fact that Cerberus was being banned away in the second phase. What I'm even more surprised is with how successful Raijin has been in the last 2 weeks of play, that he's even open not just once but twice as a 10th pick selection.
Yeah, and they're going to take him this time. This is the right call. I mean, Raijin is just Raijin. Like, he's going to do it all for you. He's got good early game. He's got great late game. He's got good enough utility with the extra damage and the slow on the Raiju and the Mez on the jump. He's got the mobility from the leap. Why wouldn't you take this type of god? And I love him up against things like Hercules, where you can kite out pretty well. You can build Divine Ruin fairly effectively. It looks to me like the Kings have a very solid front-to-back draft. They've got good CC. You just want to kill front line, then move on to the back line. On the other side, you look at this Oni Warriors draft. It's got to be double Cthulhu for the Morrigan, right? That's got to be the plan, is to transform into that Cthulhu and bring that extra teamfight presence. It's all got to be on Netrioid then to chew through that extra health. And he's looked so good on this pick. I think that's a fine game plan to have if you're the Camelot Kings, is to rely on Netrioid to do the vast majority of your heavy lifting for you. But if I'm the Oni Warriors, I'm saying, hey, Fred, go take care of that guy. And if they can get Netrioid out of these fights, I don't think Raijin really puts enough threat onto a Cthulhu. I don't think Gilgamesh really does. RDO certainly does not. This is the type of composition that can run away with some team fights for the Warriors if they can target prioritize correctly.
And one thing that we've seen out of Cthulhu Morrigan transformations, there's always been kind of 2 types, and it's usually been the former of which I'm going to talk about, which is you just have 2 Cthulhus running at the exact same time, immense amount of space control, lots of damage they can throw out, and it just causes a whole commotion. There's also the second type of Cthulhu transformation for this Morrigan, and that's the post or pre-teammate Cthulhu transformation. So you have your first one go up. Everybody pops their relics, everybody tries to spread out and run away. And then the second Cthulhu comes in now that all those relics have been burned, and that can allow for you to play either more assassin-style Morrigan and pick those gods off that you were able to burn those beats from previously, or allow your solo laner to start getting those big kills with it.
Yeah, you got some options when it comes to it, but I don't think that there's a whole lot of other better options to be transforming into, so I definitely expect it to be the double Cthulhu.
We'll see if the Camelot Kings are able to close this out and get a nice clean 2-0 for them, or the Warriors going to give them some trouble here in Game 2. We'll take it to the casters to find out.
There's only 2 ways this can go now. Either the Camelot Kings win this game or the next game, and they are officially your first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs. And even if the Oni Warriors win the next 2, and the Oni Warriors win this set 2-1, then the Camelot Kings will have a tiebreaker for the second seed in the Phase 2 playoffs. So, the Camelot Kings with a win here will stamp themselves as the top team going into the Phase 2 playoffs. And Miff, if they are riding high, after game one. This is going to be difficult for the Oni Warriors to turn this set around, especially with the draft that the Kings got. They've gotten some great damage to play around is the word I'm looking for here. Big Man Tings had a great game in game one. Netroid on the ROM gets to run back. The snipe rate, I think, was pretty high there, so the carries have to be feeling good.
Yeah, I like this draft from the Kings a lot, and this RDO is going to be a central point for it going forward. I think that it's got great CC lockdown, decent sustain. She has got all right ability to keep track of Dardez inside of the stealth as well as Vote. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Variety chooses to play this one as Netrioid pulled in, forced to use the beads, and loses out on all that safety early on. But Dave, I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
The desk, or particularly J-Mac, said Cthulhu. I'm more of a Cthulhu 2 guy. What about you?
Yeah, Cthulhu 2 I think is just better because it's in the how am I gonna word this? Phonetically it sounds similar enough. Like you're gonna say Cthulhu, so Cthulhu 2 kind of sounds similar. Cthulhu, you're changing up the entire what you want.
It's a whole different word.
You want to keep it as simple as possible, right?
Yeah.
I think Cthulhu 2 is
it's not as convincing when you struggle to say it, Dave.
Right. I'm trying to describe how I feel about it in general. Cthulhu 2 is definitely better because you change the least about the original word. There we go. Now, if I had just said that the first time,
that was clean.
If I had said that the first time, we wouldn't be a minute and 40 seconds into game without having done any real analysis. Right. I'm intrigued by how Neil is going to look on this Hercules pick, Myth, because we've seen plenty of variety from Neil's God pool. Thank you. Over the course of Season 8 so far. Admittedly, how his Hercules looks has escaped me up to this point.
Well, back in Season 7, he had a pretty decent Hercules, and a couple of times here in Season 8, I think he's gone towards this pick. And considering that he was already able to strip away beads from Netroid, who still will not have that back up for the next 70 seconds, I think that I've got a good deal of faith in Neilma's ability to exert pressure with this pick, and it seems like he does as well. Level 3 already making the rotation.
Hello, Red Buff Invade at level 3. Neilma now in between Captain Twig and Genetics, but Hercules, of course, can walk his way on out. How much do we want to spend here, Oni Warriors? They want to spend plenty of time, it appears, as Neilma gets jumped on by Captain Twig. Cubo Fred's got some pressure. You can sense the hesitancy from the Camelot Kings. Blinks exchanged by both junglers. And now back to the red buff go the Oni Warriors. It gets dropped down and picked up. And Dardez confirms the successful red buff invade, and it's going to get worse. There's a blue buff getting invaded on the left side as well. Netroid is going to send some auto attacks Vote's way, who has to dash on out of this fight. The fight after the invade might not be good for the Oni Warriors, but Neilma has a great driving strike.
Man, I noticed one thing from the Camelot Kings then. It's that Big Man Tings washed his hands of that entire engagement. Mama said, I don't need red buff. I don't really care about that. I'm going to go ahead and head back mid, clear wave, head back to base. So they're invading purple. That's not my buff. I don't care about that either. Yep. So the Oni Warriors, in a 4 versus 3, are able to strip away both buffs here from the Camelot Kings. And despite all of that, seems like the farming's been more efficient from the Chaos team. Maybe Big Man Tings finds himself at a decent little gold advantage as he wasn't splitting his waves whatsoever. And, well, the Oni Warriors were splitting all of their farm. That said, experience still largely equalized across the board. One point of contention is that both of these junglers are completely even, despite one not getting any buffs throughout that entire time. Cubo Fred struggling to find the defense, but maybe not anything else.
I'm wondering, Miff, you know, we had a conversation around the naming rights, I guess, of Cthulhu when you have a Morgan on your team. No, I'm going to talk about actually Cthulhu and what he brings to the game versus... It. We are, unfortunately, Miff, we can't. We can no longer discuss whether it's Cthulhu or Cthulhu.
We agree, so.
Right, we do agree.
Cthulhu.
And here's you getting me to talk about it anyway. I wonder how Variety matches up into this Cthulhu, though. I mean, it feels like a pick where that dash so integral in Cthulhu's kit into getting involved, getting in, getting out of the fight. A cripple field from Variety might actually have some pretty good value here in this game.
It could. I think it's going to be more so about the disengage from Cthulhu than rather the engage.
Right.
Once you go in that descent into madness, if Variety is kind of riding your heels and you need to escape afterwards, because generally you are a large lightning rod for damage inside of that stance, everyone should be able to hit you relatively easily. Well, Variety can keep you there. As far as engage goes, you can bot blink. That's the whole thing.
Wow, we're doing it again. It's a red buff invade all over again from the Oni Warriors. Cubo Fred now is going to use Lord of the Afterlife. He'll jump on over Captain Twig, who hits level 5 at the perfect time. Big Man Tings level 6 here. has Tycho drums. Dardes immediately gets feared away. The Gilgamesh transformation gets effectively nothing here. Genetics joins the fight from the left side of the map, but this Oni Warriors grouping has just felt more strong on the left.
They're just so concise and consistent with where they want to be. Red buff and purple invaded twice now, 5 minutes into the game, and now the XP is starting to rear its head in favor of the Oni Warriors. Greater Scorpion getting taken down as well. The Camelot Kings were the ones setting that proactive pace in game 1, but now it's the Warriors doing the exact same thing. You don't get to see this too often, though. Experience favoring the Warriors, and gold actually favoring the Kings, about 100 both ways for either team. And that just speaks volumes to how well the Camelot Kings are controlling these neutral camps, these mid camps. Despite losing out on 2 buffs on rotation twice now, they're remaining largely even.
It's this next rotation where I think I'm going to be pretty intrigued on what the Camelot Kings do in response, because the Oni Warriors have clearly shown now they have the buff timers, and the Oni Warriors want to group up around the red, around the purple. So the Camelot Kings should show up in force around the next couple, assuming that the Oni Warriors will be there. And so it's the next couple of minutes where I turn my eyes towards the Camelot Kings and see how they're able to reply. I like the difference here in the Oni Warriors drafting that we've seen, at least in this set, specifically around Dardes. For a while, you know, early on in Season 8, almost felt forced to put Dardes on some of the picks that were the most popular in the league. And that's never really a bad thing, I guess. If you're playing straight from the tier list, you're getting good gods. But you look at Dardes, you know, the Hera didn't really work out in game 1, but still was able to do some good damage. Here on the Morgan, another great pick for Dardes. I think getting Dardes comfortable is going to really help out this Oni Warriors team in the future. Can Dardes be comfortable around this fight? That's the question. Nilma sure isn't comfortable, and Tycho Drums will shut down the solo agent. And the red buff is up, and the Camelot King showed up in force, sensing the Oni Warriors might be there.
Neoma just trying to create some space and open the opportunity for further red buff invades, puts himself out of position a little bit too far forward for the rest of his team, and the Camelot Kings chomp down on him. Easy first blood for the Chaos team, as we see a little bit of an annoying interaction between Dardes and Genetics in mid. Oni Warriors now have lost out on both invades, red and purple timers, firmly in the grasp of the Camelot Kings.
Yep, firmly grasp it.
And they had equal XP beforehand. Their gold was doing just fine as well. Got to think they're going to start outpacing the Oni Warriors now insofar as farm.
Man, no buff is safe here for the Camelot Kings. Luckily for the Kings, able to secure the purple and the red this time around. I think the last red went to the Camelot Kings, but the purple went over to the Oni Warriors. So it's now where the Oni Warriors might have to shift up some of this early game plan, because the Camelot King's starting to read it well. Driving strike onto Genetics will knock back the Khepri a little bit. Didn't get to see all that much out of this Khepri in game 1, Myth. You know, it was pretty quiet. The Camelot Kings felt
like 3 revives. That's it.
Right. I mean, it felt like they were driving that game to the point where Genetics was doing more utility and engage work than anything else.
Yeah, but now he should have his metal tested, his timing tested with the Scarab's Blessing, especially with Neoma playing as well as he has been for the last 8.5 minutes. The pulls, the displacement have all been so strong.
Man, you and I are really good at our jobs, man. We're talking about the engage that the Khepri's been providing, and we get to see it again.
You were, not me.
Yeah, but, you know, you agreed and you're talking about it. I'll throw you a bone there as well. Netroid still on point with those snipes. He gets the kill here for the Camelot Kings around the red buff. Vote rooted into place. Genetics won't follow up with the pull.
Good damage.
Because Vote is doing a whole lot of damage. Just Ikavale here for this Izanami. But the stim so strong. Netroid just outboxing Vote, who has to dash away. Dark Portal's still there for the Iza. No snipes for Netroid. So Camelot Kings might have to slow play.
That was so disrespectful. Vote steps up from behind and says, land your abilities. Captain Twig steps up and isn't quite as lucky. Just wants his item.
No.
Turns it around. Wow!
Oh, and the Scarab's Blessing is perfect from Genetics. And the last bit of mana Genetics had gets used on his jungler. And that is perfect play from this Camelot Kings team. The jump in, the disrespect to Vote despite the Dark Portal still being there. And then Twig gets the old escape rope there out thanks to his supports. The Camelot King's starting to roll here, Myth, and 2,000 gold up, 9.5 minutes in. With the way things are trending, you know, the Kings definitely on track here to winning game 2 and stamping themselves as first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs.
I don't think Twig, well, okay, that was just a really cool interaction.
Yeah, that was nice.
Stuns it out immediately. I don't think Twig even wanted to take that fight up against Vote. Instead, he was just going to go finish his quest. He's trying to get his item from the map, and he does get a shuriken selection from it. Probably something
Run with it.
He's not looking to
Run with
finish
it,
going
baby.
forward, but Instead, finds himself a kill almost as an afterthought as well, maybe more disrespectful, not even thinking about vote and still walking away with it as Variety. He just doesn't care. He just doesn't care.
Why would he? Look at the non-amount of damage that he's taken. He is in a
he's winning
2v1,
this.
and he is winning the engagement. No, you can't do it.
No.
You can't do it to Cubo Fred. Cubo Fred needed the dash in from Nika because Variety was winning that 2v1. And this RDO, just one level up over Nika, has been running things. Variety's been at the spear point. He's been at the forefront of a lot of these solo lane meta changes, and he's been playing a lot of them well. Neoma in range to steal this Pyromancer away with Excavate. If the opportunity is opened up, Dardes could do the same as well. But Variety's not someone you want to fight. I thought we've learned this lesson already. Dardes transforms into the Gilgamesh, sends the dropkick one way. Neoma uses the Excavate to try to fight back in on the other side of the map, but Variety will calm down.
Variety cannot be stopped in the backline, and Cubo Fred, not nearly as lucky, falls down low, picked up by Captain Twig.
This is where the Camelot Kings start to run away with these games. Nika's going to get run down by the rest of the Kings that are on the right side of the map, and this is the type of moment where, all right, Neil dies. Maybe we get out. Nah, Cubo Fred now dies. Nah, Nika's still here, so Nika dies. And then Pyromancer's still here. And what was a 2,000 gold lead a moment ago, Myth, is going to become closer to 3. 11.5 minutes in, it's a spitting image of what we saw in Game 1.
This is a tough pace for the Oni Warriors to deal with, but they do have a silver lining in that their late-game team composition is incredibly strong. How do you deal with a CC core of 2 Thulus? I mean, that's going to be very difficult.
I thought we agreed.
Yeah, we did, but I wanted to test it, throw him a bone, and it wasn't good. I mean, I saw your face. It clearly wasn't good. The Cthulhu 2 is going to be annoying inside of the late game. Vote scales incredibly well on the Izanami. Cubo Fred does fall off a little bit on this Osiris inside of the late game. Won't be necessarily as tanky as some of his contemporaries and doesn't deal as much damage as some of his contemporaries. Instead, it's his job just to make sure his team gets to the late game. And so far, 2 levels down, I'd say he's not performing to the pace that we need.
No. Captain Twig has been playing Command Possess today. The Ratatosker was incredible in Game 1. This Gilgamesh has looked unstoppable in Game 2. I want him to finish out that Shuriken. He won't, but I want the Gilgamesh to have some crit. That'll get sold off eventually for an item. But now it's about looking, you know, if the Camelot Kings are able to win this game, as Big Man Tings uses his beads in mid, if the Camelot Kings are able to win this game, this whole last weekend is really about the final spot checks on the 6 teams that are going into the Phase 2 playoffs. And the Camelot Kings might be looking the best because this is happening effectively on cooldown. Cubo Fred getting bullied by the right side of the map. Variety on this RDO has become a real problem. So now you're another team. You're wondering, do I ban out the RDO? Do I have to ban out the Hell? What can I ban out against Variety? Because then we have to worry about Big Man Tings. Netrioid on this ROM has looked incredible. That's just one ban. Surely we can throw one there, right? I mean, I'm not sure, Myth. This Camelot Kings team, it's going to take a lot to beat them.
It's a 5-headed threat, as you said, and when you got 5 threats, Neoma is going to feel the pressure of them drop down low incredibly quickly, is able to use the driving strike, though, to disengage. That said, on the left-hand side, Tier 1 tower removed. Netroid able to pick that one up, and just in time for Gold Fury to spawn up. Camelot Kings, now with the defensive positioning, are posing a difficult question to the Oni Warriors, who are about 5,000 gold down at this point. Do we want to go down 9, 6,000, 7,000 gold? Or defend a Gold Fury?
Right, this is the type of fight that you just lose. If you lose this fight and the Gold Fury, the game is effectively over. You have to feel like Cubo Fred avoids the last bit of damage, but Variety is in on the chase. Who am I kidding? Netroid's got snipes. It is a good scare blessing on a Big Man Tings. Nika starting to wreak some havoc in the front line of this fight, but how can you forget about the 5-headed beast that is the Camelot Kings? When one falls, 4 others stand, and Netroid is the one standing tall with a double.
Neoma, healthy and happy at full HP and mana, got to watch on as the entirety of his team fell at his feet. Now has to pull on his hero's cape and try and put up a defense on this Gold Fury. Is spotted out. Netroid's low, though.
Does not have Excavate, has health, and has mana.
Crippled, by the way.
That's about it. Yeah, can't dash, can pull, but can't dash. Gold Fury being damaged as well as Neoma. Oh, he's gotten the kill onto Netroid and does not steal away the Gold Fury. Will fall at the end. At least you've gotten a kill onto Netroid, who was on a killing spree, so that'll be some extra gold to Neoma. But the Camelot Kings ultimately get all 5 kills plus Gold Fury, trading out a few members of their team.
Okay, I've got to be reading this wrong. Neoma was level 9 going into that Gold Fury fight, And he is level. Did he level up twice from killing Netroid, or am I? I must be misreading it.
I have no horse in the. I hadn't noticed his level going into that fight, so I'm not sure. But he is back to even with genetics.
That's
and
huge.
So getting a kill on a Netroid is big.
He's ahead in the build as well. Yeah, okay. Neilma finds himself in a decent spot. Can't say the same thing for the rest of the Oni Warriors, who are still largely behind. 1 level in solo, 3 levels in the jungle, 2 in mid. And even inside of the ADC, duo lane for the Oni Warriors actually looking pretty healthy at this point.
Yeah, as far as XP goes, though, actually ahead is Vote as far as XP goes. But net worth, while we've got him up, I think important to take note of. 300 gold is the difference there. You know, jungle is, hell, where's Cubo Fred? Oh, he's at the bottom with 6,700. So that is 2.3K ahead in gold as Captain Twig. I mean, this is a big disparity, and the fact that genetics has more gold than both Neilma and Vote definitely does not trend well for the Oni Warriors. So, you know, an okay fight back in around that Gold Fury myth. I mean, all things considered, maybe the best that the Oni Warriors could have hoped for is that you're able to at least get 2 or 3 kills while also losing the Gold Fury and everyone on your team.
I think they could have hoped for better than that, Dave, but I'm not going to put words in the Oni Warriors' mouth. Captain Twig is going to put the sands of Shamash in their mouths.
You broke me, Myth. That was good. Captain Twig gets the kill onto Darda. Snipes from Netroid from the backline. He's going to keep this hunter involved, but now he actually joins the fight with the good old-fashioned auto attacks. Neilma turns his eyes towards his recent nemesis and keeps Netroid just at bay a little bit longer, but the rest of the damage of the Camelot Kings is here, and it is a lot. Variety will knock down Cubo Fred. Tycho drums onto Neilma. The Hercules is plucked right back into danger. Unstoppable as Captain Twig, and the Gilgamesh remains undying.
Man, Variety is allowed to do no wrong at this point, and again, another phenomenal stun to immediately stop the dash. Vote turns around to look into his assailant's eyes as he falls down. Someone's got to stop him. Someone's got to do it, man.
Heal him up, baby. Knock him down. Nika might get the root.
He's full HP?
Transforms. Yeah, he's not taking any damage, or the damage that he is taking is immediately being healed. What a solo attempt this is from Variety, who is mauling, absolutely mauling.
That's the name of one of
the Oni Warriors.
3, I think. Yeah.
Right.
That was nice.
One of them. Appreciate it, Myth. 505 is Variety. 706 is Captain Twig. And then the support slash lines for both Big Man Tings and Genetics. You know, Myth, this is an uphill battle in every regard for the Oni Warriors. We're 17 minutes in, and the gold lead over 8,000. Might be a steal attempt here that could pull some gold back for the Oni Warriors. And Camelot King slow playing it.
Neilma dropped down to just below half, just by the efforts of Captain Twig. Big Man Tings gets involved, and that should spell the end of that one. Credit to Twig with damage from Big Man Tings. And you know what, Dave? I got to think that Vote is heavily getting some buyer's remorse here from this build, man. You want the tank shredder when you're getting shredded by the tanks, and Variety is shredding. Maybe that crit isn't looking so good, critting Variety for like 100 damage, maybe 110 damage. Whereas if Netroid gets dove on by Nika, or Dardes doing his best Nika cosplay as that Cthulhu 2, it doesn't really matter because he's got Kin Size, Ikavale. He's shredding anyone who's got HP in front of him. And, well, we saw what Vote's able to do up against this Artio, and it's not much.
The Olympus Bolts are at home, Myth, hoping that the Oni Warriors can somehow turn around these next 2 games. But the turnaround is, I don't know what, a 720. You got to turn it around twice to get yourself back.
Maybe like a 1080.
Yeah, 1080. I don't know. We're talking Tony Hawk here at this point. Levels of turnaround to get the Oni Warriors back into this game.
Shouts to the Birdman.
That's right. You see that skateboard that he's building, by the way?
No. What? I mean, I got to assume he's built a lot.
No, well, we can talk about it after this game. If you're at home, you might have heard about it. But the Camelot Kings in a position, the point being, they're in a position where this game is going to be so difficult to turn around.
Look at the duo lane. Vote trying to make the hero play. Steps in, misses the slope.
Everyone misses everything.
And then jumps forward. Vote, you're dead for this, I think.
Dark Portal did hit Netroid, and Cubo Fred did blink forward, but sprint used by Genetics. And there's an 806 Gilgamesh in the backline. Vote uses the Aegis, and that'll avoid damage from the second snipe that wouldn't have hit anyway. And there's actually a decent bit of pressure pushing forward now by the Oni Warriors, but it's the second wind that you have to be wary of. Raiju is melting Neilma, and this could just be the easiest kill of Big Man Tings' life. Neilma will dash away. The chase is on by the Camelot Kings, but Thunder Crash will seal the deal.
Meanwhile, on the other side, Dardas and Nika have joined up inside of the jungle. to look at Variety. They make eye contact like a Pokemon trainer
I don't
across
want to
the
look
lane.
at Variety. The last time I looked at Variety, I died, is what Boat's saying.
Yeah,
I don't
so
wanna
that's
do
why
that
they
again.
walked away. they're gone. They left. Primal Fury goes the way of the Camelot Kings, and, well, with this lead and with Neomod dead for 10 seconds, maybe they keep up their aggression.
Dardes.
What? How does he know? He pinged him.
He's just that smart.
That's so sick, actually.
Genetics is just that good. Dardes stealthed around the red buff pit, able to pick up the red buff at least. But the tier 2 tower on left will end up going down. So Big Man Tings gets the first kill of the game for himself here. Was 0-1-12. And I'm going to ask you a question here, Miff.
Please.
As far as attractive KDA goes, and I actually can't go on with this because an actual important thing is happening here in this game, and that's the Oni Warriors starting up the FG. They're doing it quick. They are going to finish this one off, and the Camelot Kings will not be able to get the Fire Giant. What a call by the Oni Warriors to at least stabilize, at least keep that out of the back pockets of the Camelot Kings. A quick call and the correct call from the Warriors.
We'll see how the Camelot Kings look to respond. You better believe Variety is going to be annoying. I mean, I don't even think with Fire Giant, anybody on the Oni Warriors can really put a stop to this RDO at this point. The Oni Warriors essentially buy themselves a fair deal of time here, just waiting. Are the Camelot Kings potentially for this Fire Giant to respawn, but instead it is actually a siege attempt.
I was thinking that's got to be more so the fact that now they're defending with FG instead of the Camelot Kings having FG. I don't know if the Kings change up the pace of their game at all. I mean, they're so far ahead. At this point, it's just the advantage of having it, and the Camelot Kings don't also have it while they're sieging. But you're still 9,000 gold down.
You're struggling with sustain, though, if the Camelot Kings take an elongated fight around these Phoenixes. Maybe it's that initial push-in that they're looking for. They can't have Genetics just tank it up, reset with the HP 5, a Fire Giant, or the healing of a Hell, as Variety is playing RDO this time around. So it's got to be a clean siege from the Camelot Kings, and no towers left standing for the Oni Warriors means if they want to keep up this pressure into the 5-man Fire Giant of the Oni Warriors, well, they're going to have to do it very well and very quickly. We have not had an opportunity just yet to see the double Cthulhu from the Warriors themselves.
True.
That's a lot of CC potential, very easy to execute on when you're in a defense situation. So the Camelot Kings just spinning their wheels for now.
It feels like Dardes just wants to be anyone that's not on his team at the moment.
Yeah, everybody else is so ahead.
Right, everyone else just feels so far ahead for the Camelot Kings. Let's see what the Morrigan chooses to do. As the fighting commences, Captain Twig jumps on in. It's another Gilgamesh transformation for Dardes here. Plenty of crits and a good pullback from Neomod, but Scarab's Blessing is perfect from Genetics. Captain Twig does not proc the Scarab's Blessing, and watch out because Netrioids joined the fight. And the health bars of the Oni Warriors look a whole lot worse for it. Variety frontlining against 4. One last snipe from Netrioid hits onto Dardes, and Neomod won't go down just yet.
Genetics left high and dry, no Scarab's Blessing for himself, so he's going to have to walk away from that one, but straight into the waiting grasp of Nika.
You mentioned sustain here, Mifflin, and this fight has gone long, and the health bars are low on the Camelot Kings. Dardes could walk forward. Variety gets the stun there. Genetics wants to leave, and so do the rest of the Camelot Kings, and Fire Giant appears to have paid off.
Variety blinked forward into a stealthed the Morrigan and just stopped him. He just stuffs it. Dardes may have been able to find the kill on a Big Man Tings as he was so far forward, but was not given the opportunity because this RDO is playing out of their mind. Hinduman told me to stop saying that phrase because I say it too much, but there's no better way to describe what Variety is doing right now. He is not within his mind. He is outside of it. Removed from the compounds of his own mind. He is playing out of his mind.
I was going to let you keep going. I wanted to see how many ways you can think of to rephrase that statement, but I think you probably checked most of the boxes how it immediately
At 3?
What'd you say?
I had 3 of them.
Right. Yeah, but I can't think of any more off the top of my head. They're out of my mind.
Yeah. Ooh.
That was a good one.
Off the top.
Now this is a big potential momentum shift here in this game. The Oni Warriors are down big. They are still way down in this game. The Fire Giant
11K
smoothing over some of the deficit that they faced. Still not able to win a fight against the Camelot Kings. So there's 30 seconds left on this FG. As the Oni Warriors group up gets spotted out by who else but then Variety, who apparently has got a detection radar. Yeah, and they're running away because it's it's Variety. And the way Variety's been playing has been pretty scary. 4 levels for Cubo Fred to make up, only 1 in the mid, so the widest gap is out of the jungle.
It's still 4?
So the Oni Warriors did buy themselves some time. Fire Giant will be up here in a minute, Miff. And so the call for the Oni Warriors to go to the FG, to immediately burn it down, has paid off, and it's closed up some of the gap, at least in the XP department, that the Oni Warriors faced.
You know, I'm going to pose this any way that we want. We're just going to go ahead and talk over this because Variety's at 0 threat of death. Cubo Fred can approach this as a glass half full or a glass half empty type of way. Osiris is past his prime, no matter what here. Leveling up to 20 is not a big deal for him because it's not a massive power spike for Osiris himself, as he does generally fall off in the late game phase.
He peaked in high school, right?
Yeah, he peaked in high school, so Cubo Fred could think to himself, all right, it doesn't matter that I'm behind because I'm really only here as a CC bot anyway. Or it's man, I'm going to level up, but darn, I'm not getting much stronger. So we'll see how the mentality rolls out, or maybe we won't.
How about his build path? Because, you know, we've seen some disparity in the way Osiris is built here in the SPL. Stone Cutting Sword, Serrated Edge, so some damage, and actually a decent amount of damage baked into it. Maybe he's following along with the mindset, you know, if you build full-on defense when you're behind, you're not going to be having a great time. Spirit Robe will help out, though, and maybe keeping this Osiris in the fight.
Yeah, I actually really like this Spirit Robe selection. Stone Cutting and Serrated are kind of core on this god for his damage output. His Variety is hit by 4, and I don't know why I paused to speak. Variety is unkillable at this point. That Spirit Robe is pretty huge, though. All the CC coming from the Camelot Kings, or Variety and Genetics in particular, is essentially just going to make sure that Cubo Fred is always a little bit tankier than you think.
This is a big one. Big fight. Can the Camelot Kings win the fight, win the game, win first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs? Netroid lets some snipes fly, and they will connect onto a priority target, and that's Dardes, who has to back away just a little bit further, but won't be there for the execute. Vote has been giving the space now to weave in some of those crits. Nika's taking a whole lot of damage on the front of this fight, though. Now Neoma rounds the right side. Cubo Fred will jump out, but Big Man Tings will not let him escape. Dardes has joined the backside of this fight, but he's taking a lot of damage himself as well. Nika's found the first kill of the fight for the Oni Warriors. Big Man Tings has used the Taiko drums, and they've connected, and look at the health bars of the Oni Warriors. They are melting. A big stun from Dardes. There's the Aegis out of Big Man Tings to keep him on the map.
Up-down.
Big Man Tings will survive. Big Man Tings on the killing spree, and the Camelot Kings, they'll be your first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs.
Triple kill goes the way of Captain Twig and Big Man Tings from the jaws of death with the up-down.
No!
Oh, they can't go for the siege. Hey, it's okay, bud. Don't worry about it. At the end of the day, the Camelot Kings are probably going to still be able to pull this one out of their hats. 14,000 gold in the lead. No ADC available for 20 seconds, but I think it's still going to be a Fire Giant going their way. I loved that Raijin play, man. If he does anything different, if he decides to whip his mouse a millimeter further away to try and create some space for that leap, he just dies. Instead, survives, gets his damage out, and completely swings that engagement. Captain Twig credit for the triple, but Big Man Tings, MVP of that one in my book.
Now the Camelot Kings will get the quiet FG, 2 minutes away from Enhanced. But the Camelot Kings, without FG a moment ago, got stuffed by the Oni Warriors on a kind of half attempt at a Phoenix Siege. This time, the Camelot Kings with a big lead and Fire Giant should fare much better. All 3 Phoenixes exposed. We've got a little bit of gold in hand. So we'll back off, and we'll get our first look at the Oni Warriors Phoenix defense here in a moment.
Twig's 11-0-8 right now. I've been pushing this narrative that jungle is weaker in Season 8, and it's not a narrative, it's just fact.
Yeah, man, he's so weak.
Weaker. Yeah, but you wouldn't believe it, seeing Captain Twig here as you...
He didn't die in Game 1, right?
Is he undying in this set?
I think so.
I think he may have dropped 1 towards the end
I thought he was 10-0 in Game 1.
21-0.
I could be wrong. I could have sworn...
Production, let us know.
Yeah, somebody yell at me in the ear and tell me if I'm anywhere close to being right. Regardless, he hasn't died a lot. I mean, it's been once or twice, if at all, so far this set. Captain Twig is willing this team forward, and it doesn't require that much willing. The rest of the Camelot Kings are happy to fill in that space that Captain Twig is providing. Variety has played nuts here in game number 2. He did not die last game, so Captain Twig is undying. Unreal. Maybe one of the best single-set jungle performances we've seen in a while.
Yeah, Captain Twig's been having a great series of weeks. Even last week has one of his best performances as well. Seems to me that he's really found his home here in Season 8. The jungle meta really favoring his playstyle, and now Camelot King's really favoring this engagement.
Wow, the Phoenix is going down quickly. Neoma is as well. I can't wait to say Camelot Kings are going to be your first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs and really mean it this time. I'm so excited. I'm chomping at the bit here for this fight to go the Camelot Kings' way. Though, if we go to 3 games, that'd be a lot of fun as well. Nika is going to try to get us there, but His health bar isn't going to allow him to. Captain Twig has jumped into the back with 3 members of the Oni Warriors. The other 2 being melted away by the Camelot Kings. The Camelot Kings will be your first seed in the Phase 2 playoffs.
Vote gonna try his best, and make sure you have to say it one more time just a little bit later. Turns his attention to Netroid, whiffs the ultimate, and dies to the support. Genetics, credit for that one. Yeah, man, I think the Titan's gonna die here.
I don't want to play against the Camelot Kings if I'm any other team here in the,
Maybe the Bolts.
in the SPL
Maybe.
right now. Maybe the Bolts.
No, I think they prefer not to.
So the Camelot Kings seal the deal, and they are now your Phase 2, playoffs first seed team. And so you have this bracket that's now all formed out. I believe the Oni Warriors are now on the side of the bracket that might have to go play the Camelot Kings if they somehow win. I mean, the bracket and all that will be released, so don't take my word as gospel just yet. But the Camelot Kings, Miff, I always like to harp on this. And you called it correctly. You mentioned them as a dark horse team to win these playoff events.
I don't think I did anymore. They're,
Yeah,
just,
no
they're
more.
just a horse.
They are
Simply horse.
They are a single horse running at 2 horsepower. They're somehow torque things up to 10. I don't know. The Camelot Kings, they decimate the Oni Warriors today. There's no two ways about it. Captain Twig at the forefront of the win, and the Camelot Kings do what they came to did what they came to do. My goodness, I'm all over the place. Camelot Kings, they're your first seed team in the Phase 2 playoffs. I'm going to take a break. Miff's going to take a break, and the desk will come back and bring us home.
Hey there, SMITE fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything. I've never had more than 16 gigs. That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
Welcome back to the desk for one final time for the day as the Camelot Kings wrap up a nice clean 2-0 victory. And a big shout out to bringing us all the action and bringing us the SPL for Season 8. Our title sponsor, Alienware. You can get all of these newest and hottest Alienware gear between the Aurora Ryzen 10 desktop or the 240Hz gaming monitor over at smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW to get yourself some discounts. Thank you again to our sponsors, Alienware, for being a huge part of the SPL and bringing us a lot of this action. Aggro, game number 2. If Twig looked really good in game number 1, he said, hold that thought. I think I can up this one more time. Went undying 18-0 as a full set for the day, 11-0 in this game. Man played nuts.
Out of his mind, as Mifflin said, a couple different ways.
Right.
Yeah, he was on that one. I thought of another one, by the way, Mifflin, unconscious. That's another one that you can use in that sort of situation. And it all described what Captain Twig was doing here today. The whole right side of the map, really, for the Camelot Kings. I mean, when we're talking about the Warriors, oftentimes we talk about Nika, but Variety is really the one who stole the show today. And he's been doing it quietly, kind of, maybe not so quietly if you've been watching all their games, all phase long. Whether it's the Hell, whether it's this RDO, he really dominated this right side of the map, and that enabled Captain Twig to do exactly the same thing, which was just absolutely run through the opposition in these team fights.
Yeah, I'd say in game number 2 it was not so quiet with this RDO. I mean, he chased, I believe he chased Vote away from mid lane all the way back to his tier 2 tower when he was finally able to kill him, and then was still willing to dive Nika even beyond there. This was no quiet game for Variety. I believe he finished 5-0 and 5-0 at least for his slash line following through. Yeah, right side of the map kind of just popped off, and well, everybody else just got to follow in line and say, hey, yeah, we'll ride along this little train going here.
Why not? Because we got plenty of space to go. I mean, Netrioid and Big Man Tings didn't have anything to worry about in this game, it felt like, because it was just so easy to create space when you've got these guys in front of you. And that's the dream as a backliner, is you just hit the people that are hitting them instead of hitting you.
And Captain Twig, this was kind of one of those plays where you just go, all right, there's no way he makes it out of here. He walked in to kind of push them back, but he was picking up his quest item. He walked up and said, all right, that's mine. Oh, you guys want to fight? Turns around, gets a drop kick, and then Genetics with one of the hottest Khepri ultimates to save his life from it all. This whole team is playing on a completely different level than we've seen them before, even in the earlier portions of this year.
Excited to see what they're going to pull out of playoffs, man, because this is a team that you definitely have to watch out for. They go through these stretches where they just look completely unbeatable, and can they keep that up? That's the real question, right? Is how well can they continue on this type of streak? Sometimes this team does have a tendency to beat themselves in some ways, get a little bit too cute with some of the plays they're trying to do, or some bad calls towards the late game. It's been happening less and less, and that's as expected as a team like this matures. But that's still the main concern for me for the Kings, is whether or not they play their game. Because if they do, and they don't make a bunch of mistakes, they're likely to beat everyone in the league. It's just a matter of staying out of their own way sometimes.
Yeah, let me correct myself. It was 6-0 for Variety, not 5-0. And Twig went 12-0 to finish with a 19-0 to end the day between the Ratatoskr and the Gilgamesh. That's not a number that you get to see often. Even in 3-game sets, you don't get to often see 19 kills from a player. But not just the 19 kills, 0 deaths for 2 full games.
But remember, J-Mac, I mean, jungle's bad, right? Like,
jungle's awful, dude.
Junglers are bad. Like, nothing they can do about it. Certainly not actually impact the flow of the game. No way. Not a shot.
No, there's no way. Maybe we can talk to one of the junglers over here and see if he's got a better insight onto how the jungle really is. Captain Twig standing by. First off, Twig, congratulations on a big win for yourself. Tell me a little bit about this Ratatoskr that you popped out here for the last couple of sets.
It's hard to say. I'm in love with the skin. He's the little alien skin. I'm in love with that, and if you have fun with the skin, I think it makes you have fun with the character.
Well, I mean, everybody knows that skins are what really wins. You gotta the team with the better skins is clearly the one that goes. Is that your favorite skin of the Ratatoskr?
Absolutely. Close after the pilot skin, which is also Barn Burner.
The aviation skin. I don't know. I would have thought, the Wolf of Ragnarok one, the little Fenrir cosplay would have been up there for it. But hey, 2 good options for it. But looking through, you guys have now secured yourselves first seed. How are you guys feeling going towards playoffs this next weekend?
Absolutely ecstatic. I mean, it's such a big statement for us to come first seed, especially with 2 people playing on a slightly higher ping than the rest of the league. It's an absolute amazing statement, and just kind of proving to ourselves that we can be that first seed, and we're feeling good for playoffs. I think if we get to play our game, if we get to pick our comps and play the map our way, then no one can beat us.
Well, you guys looked unstoppable today. Great performance from you, Twig, and the rest of your team. Congrats on the big win today.
Thanks.
Looking forward to what these guys can do in playoffs, Aggro. If they're looking this hot in just the regular season, I can only imagine what they have stored up in a little bag of tricks for the next weekend.
And if there's a team that's got an extensive bag of tricks, it's almost certainly the Camelot Kings. They're just so creative with the way they want to play the game. No one else playing Ratatoskr, and Twig's probably right that it's the iconic phrase, look good, feel good. That's one that you really have to feel down to your bones, and he's looking good, and he's feeling good with that rat skin.
Well, let's take a look at the schedule in case you've missed any of the action this past weekend. This is your chance to kind of take a look and, see what you may have missed. Even though this match got scheduled from the Saturday all the way here to Monday, it's a 2-0 here for the Camelot Kings. They come out with 2 victories this weekend, taking down the Dragons at the very start of the week. And if you've missed any of this action, you can always catch back up on it on the SMITE VOD YouTube channel, or going back to the Twitch VODs on twitch.tv/SMITE game as well. But this is the best weekend that you could have looked for any of the SMITE action. Let's take a look at the standings and see how everything finalizes out here in phase number 2. The Camelot Kings with the head-to-head win-loss record over the Olympus Bolts. They will be your first seed going into playoffs. Olympus Bolts sitting second. The Scarabs and the Valhalla Valkyries, unfortunately for them, they will not be able to make it towards the playoffs. It'll only be these top 6 teams.
But it's 6 really good teams, man. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I mean, the Titans on the up and up. They just picked up a new jungler and are looking really good. The Jade Dragons, the Phase 1 playoff victors, no one's really sure what to expect from them. 8-6, definitely below expectations for that team. So can they bounce back? The new look Leviathans looking like they might be one of the teams to beat. And, of course, what happens with the Kings when how well they've been playing recently. So Phase 2 playoffs has really gotten us to a really exciting point. I can't wait.
In Phase 2 playoffs, I believe we do have maybe a slight little look at one of the brackets are going to start kind of looking for. Jade Dragons, Tartarus Titans are going to be the first matchup of that bracket, and then the Atlantis, Leviathans, and the Oni Warriors will be the second match. That's all going to be happening in the quarterfinal matchups on Friday. The Camelot Kings with their first seed. It shows where they are right here, but they get to pick who they're going to go up against between those winners of the Jade Dragons Titans and Leviathans Warriors.
And it's worth noting, J-Mac, that they have to choose which quarterfinal they want to face the winner of before those matches are played. So it's just a matter of who they think will come out and who they think they can beat out of that. So it should be really interesting to see who they end up choosing. Of course, you guys can stay tuned to our socials at SMITE Pro on Twitter in order to figure that out, because we'll tweet it out as soon as the Kings inform us of their choice. It's going to be a really fun event, man. I'm really excited.
And that's all going to be kicking off this Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, if you missed any SPL action up until now and you really want some of the best Smite you can watch, this weekend on Friday is going to be the time that we kick it all off, 1 p.m. here on the twitch.tv/Smite game channel. We do have some SCC matches on Thursday to kind of get you guys warmed up for the big action going into the huge weekend here for the Phase 2 playoffs.
I mean, it's gonna be crazy. I think that overall, a lot of really great teams playing some of their best Smite of the season, so it's perfect timing for a big event like the playoffs. It's going to be crazy, because this is the first event in a while that I really don't have a clear favorite. You know, going into Phase 1 playoffs, it was okay. As long as the Dragons play like we know they're capable of, they should win, and that's exactly what happened. Who knows? You know, if the Kings and the Leviathans are both playing their best Smite, who wins? I don't really know. How about what are the Titans' new heights look like? Can the Dragons go back and do that? How about the Bolts, who were undefeated for the vast majority of Phase 2? We've seen them play at one of the highest levels. I've got no idea what's going to happen, and I'm super excited when that's the case.
It's going to be a wild weekend of Smite for the Phase 2 playoffs. One more time, on Friday, 1 p.m. is when we're going to be kicking all of the action off. So until then, thank you all for coming by and watching the SPL. From all of us here on the casting, the productions, and the crew, thank you all, and we'll see you all on Friday for the playoffs.
Peach it!